I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Gemini for March 2017. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. See what's new on my blog. I went blog crazy since the last time I talked to you here on Horoscopes, so you can check that out. And while you're there, you can see if there are any slots available still in my Astrology Apprenticeship Program, where I will train you how to do professional astrology, or if you just want to learn for your own pursuits and purposes besides that, I can help you there too. So what's going on in this crazy month of March? We still have life-changing eclipses coming in for so many people. I can't tell you how many people, even in the time before the eclipses actually happened, just left and right, news, big news coming in. And you will notice that this happens twice a year at these eclipse times, where just jolting trajectory changes come in. So 4 to 6 weeks after the eclipses and before are high times for getting news from the eclipses. So that brings us well past March into April as far as news and events from eclipses come in. So we've got that going on. We've got clashes of outer sumo wrestler titans that I call them, these outer planets, Jupiter and Uranus, Jupiter and Pluto, meeting in a mathematical configuration that is meaningful and challenging and giving lots of opportunities. So we're going to talk about all of that. We'll talk about the fact that it is finally the astrological new year, and even though we are entrenched in the retrograde, you will still feel the bubbling up of newness and energy wanting to come forth. And we've got the New Year kickoff party, which is a new moon in Aries, which is also the best day of the year besides your birthday, to do a vision board, to plant seeds for your future life. So we'll talk about all of that in the general transits. I want to focus the specific transits for Gemini on where Venus is going to be retrograde in the houses. Every sign experiences Venus or any transit in the sign that it's in. So Venus will be retrograde from March 4th through April 15th. Even though the shadow periods before and after are quite longer, making 4 months in total. And it will be retrograde from 13 degrees of Aries back to 26 degrees of Pisces. So all of us will experience the implications of Venus retrograde in Aries and Pisces, but the signs will experience the houses of the retrograde as different and unique. And so that is what I'm going into in these March horoscopes. And you can see more information about what I'm sharing. You might see me looking down at my notes here because I wrote, well over 20 pages of blogs on Venus retrograde through the signs and houses, and resources and questions to ask, and just like really went crazy to help you prepare for this transit. So you can check out my website, Annie Helps You, for that. You can also check out my Venus retrograde do's and don'ts blog, and my Venus retrograde video, do's and don'ts video. And if you have a child that is born or due in Venus retrograde time, and that means your child will have Venus retrograde in their birth chart, or if you have Venus retrograde in your birth chart, I wrote a What's Awesome About Having Venus retrograde in Your Birth Chart blog as well. Totally blog crazy. Okay, so let's get down to it. Early and middle degree Gemini placements are going to experience this Venus retrograde predominantly in the 11th house. The early degree placements, you'll have all of it in the 11th house. The middle degree placements, you'll experience, depending on your placement, part or most in the 11th house and the rest in the 10th house. So for your middle degree placements, you've got 11th and 10th as your story. Early degree placements, you have 11th. Late degree placements, you have 10th house. So to determine if you're an early, middle, or late degree, take the day that the sun went into Gemini, the year you were born, and the day that it left. Divide those 30 days into 3 parts. First 10 days of Gemini sign are the early. Second 10 days are the middle. Last 10 days are the late. If you're watching for your rising sign, 0 to 9 degrees is early, 10 to 19 is middle, and 20 to 29 degrees is late. Okay. So what happens when Venus, which rules love, beauty, and money, so it rules all relationships, including love, all money things, finances, etc., aesthetics, fashion, beauty, it's just the umbrella of Venus is just huge. And so when we've got all of that energy as it relates to Aquarius, this is what it can look like. So Aquarius rules the 11th house, and it rules friends, acquaintances, social connections, groups, media, teams, large organizations, humanitarian efforts, communities, community-based projects, technology, inventions, the internet, and other technology, and innovation in general. When Venus goes retrograde in that house, sometimes a romantic interest from your social circles could return. There is a theme of romance coming back from the past for all of the energy of Venus retrograde, regardless of where it is. So if you are unattached, you might find someone in a social circle might return to you, or someone who is trying to set you up with someone, they might be trying to keep doing that. For people who are attached, you might find that you can bring magic back into your relationship by utilizing 11th house modalities. So participating in groups, things that you have shared interest with your partner. It's a time when you can have things come up that have been swept under the rug, involving love and beauty and money. But you can also have magic return. You can find cool things. You find something cool under the couch and you're like, oh gosh, I've been looking for that. That kind of stuff happens in retrogrades all the time. So some questions that you can ask, or that might naturally come up during this transit: what am I looking for? What are you looking for with your social connections, internet-based and in person? Are your social groups serving the person you have evolved into? Very often, people who are on an evolutionary path that is conscious, or even not, you might wake up one day and look at your friends and say, man, I really don't have anything in common with these people. Maybe they're lovely, but I'm not feeling that my path is being served by this anymore. And these are the kind of questions that get evaluated during this time. It's not necessarily a time to make hasty decisions or to burn bridges. Definitely not. You don't want to do that. But it's a time to ask the questions and feel into things like, are you being supported or limited by your friends and your social connections and your community interactions? How can you most support your friends and your community and your groups? Are you maximizing your social connections and your internet-based activities and projects and devices to serve your mission? Or are they serving as distractors, or both? Basically, how can you renegotiate your relationship with social media and social scenes in general? This is a very big topic. I don't necessarily recommend ending or closing accounts like media accounts or things like that during this time, but you can definitely step away from them. And that is often a really good idea, but you don't want to do anything that when the planet goes direct, if you're seeing things differently, as often happens, this is a temporary transit, and a lot of times the things that you're seeing are temporary. Not always, but it's not a time really to act as much as it is a time to ask. Okay, so do you have ideas that could make you money or help people? Like, do you have an idea for an invention, or, something that you could do that would help people? The 11th house is very much about humanitarian efforts and, building communities and the greater good. So if you have an idea for something and it is just about making money, that's fine too, because innovation and inventions is in this house, but you're hitting two aspects of the 11th house if it also can help people. Okay, so does your relationship with technology and social media need to be reevaluated? How can you do this in a way that lets you try on the experience without closing any doors? Asking the question, are you addicted to social media? There are many apps and other things that you can use now that will help you track how much time you're spending doing different things if you're trying to get a handle on it. Maybe those things can also be invasive. I'm not saying necessarily that I recommend them, but it's just an example of, what we're doing here with this retrograde. Anything that you can do to educate yourself on any of your ideas, like bringing your ideas, internet-based projects, inventions, etc. out, not necessarily taking action on it per se, because from March 4th through April 15th, the actual retrograde transit, then there's a shadow transit well into May. We're still just kind of in the question asking time, unless something is really in your face that you have to do. You want to, if you're going to lock something in to do something brand new, if you can wait until the energy is direct and clear, then that would be much better. So my affirmation for y'all is, I create a balanced and fulfilling relationship with technology. And that about sums it up. That's what one of the things we're really trying to do, and that Venus is giving us an opportunity to do here. So I create a balanced and fulfilling relationship with technology. You can see pretty versions of the affirmations I make for you each month on my Instagram account. Okay, so the rest of you middle degree placements, or all the middle degree placements, you might experience both 11th and 10th house. But the late degree placements, you'll have your retrograde predominantly in the, or if not completely, in the 10th house. So let's talk about what that looks like. The 10th house rules career, work, life purpose, father figures, authority figures, your relationship with authority figures, challenges with them, positive attributes of your connections with them, connections that you have. It also rules your life purpose. I'd love it if everybody's career were also their life purpose. We know that that's not necessarily true. Most of us were brought up not to live what we think that we want to do. Unfortunately, there are a lot of things that interfere with that. So these are two separate topics of the 10th house, and you could be working on uniting them. Or you could have your things you love to do that are separate from your job and your career fuels the other things you like to do, and that could be perfectly fine. It doesn't really matter. But the issues are coming up, and if there are issues, they'll come up. So it's very common for someone to reconsider how they make money. Ask the question, do I like my job? Do I want to be doing this? If so, am I making enough money? Am I putting too much into it? How can I reevaluate my efforts? It's not necessarily a great time to push a new campaign of any sort, but it is a good time to evaluate how your campaigns or your sales or your marketing or whatever you're doing is working. So like an in-depth analysis of what is working in your business and what isn't is fantastic to do this month, without necessarily making a decision about what to do, but just the actual evaluation. Okay, so some things could come up. Your father could need you, or you could need some help from your father. There could be some mixing of money there with father or father figure. There could be some work to do. There could be challenges that come up from the past to be resolved. There could also be some love that comes back in your relationship with your father. If you can get to a place of forgiveness, I talk about forgiveness all the time as one of the most important things, I think, to us maximizing the astrological transits is to actually forgive people, because anything we're holding on to as a tightness in our being, the transits bring up weak links, and weak links include places of tightness. So if you have a place of tightness where you're not forgiving your dad or another father figure, then when transits come up and are shaking loose weak links, you've got that bone really tight and it's more likely going to snap. So anyway, a word to the wise hopefully is sufficient here. Any work you can do on forgiving your dad is going to go a long way. So reconsideration of your work image is another topic that could come up now. Are you presenting yourself in the way that you want to be seen or in sync with the future of your plan for yourself? Vocational training is a great idea, or a great, so we'll call it vocational research, or if it's inexpensive or exploratory, vocational training could also be good for you right now. Basically, trying to figure out plan B for many people is going to be very up and coming. What is your plan B? Should you have a plan B? What is it? And not necessarily the time to leave your job if you can help it. We can't say that for sure without seeing your personal chart. We're talking about general transits here that may be superseded by your own personal chart. In general, the Venus retrograde transit is not the time to make a big decision like that. But if a decision is made for you and you are relieved of your job, then you can trust that there's a very good chance there's something better out there for you. So bringing harmony back to a relationship with father or father figure, even whether or not they're still informed. You can do a lot of forgiveness work with people who have passed already. So researching, considering a big picture makeover, working with a strategist, working with a coach, doing some consulting. Not necessarily the best time to do the makeover. Again, it's a time to figure out what you're going to be making over and what you want to do there. Sometimes love can come back from the past as it relates to work-related things. So you might see some of that resurface. So my affirmation for you is, I draw in full support for living in my highest purpose. I draw in full support for living in my highest purpose. Okay, so those are the things that are specific for Gemini that I want to talk about this month. So I'm calling the theme of the month for the general transit, so this is relevant for all signs. Summon your inner badass. And what I imagine when I'm seeing the energies of March all coming together is a hero that is walking through a scene that we're observing, and there are difficulties coming at them, and they're standing tall and strong and confident and moving through and being triumphant at the end of the challenges. Every month brings challenges and opportunities and sweet spots. I see challenges always as opportunities. So a month that has more challenges in some ways can be a month full of more opportunities. You know, we have started to ask wrong questions in our lives, I think, or questions that cause us to experience life in a disempowered way. When we ask questions, what's going to happen in the stars that's going to stress me out, or tell me what's going to happen, these are disempowered questions. The questions we want to be asking astrology and in general is, help me understand what's going on here so that I can maximize the potentials for my highest expression. And that's what I focus on. So I want to help you ask different questions, and that's part of summoning your inner badass, because the more empowered questions you ask, the more of an empowered life you will live. So we've got multiple important aspects going on this month, and I'm going to go through them and how I think that we can most use them. There are also some lesser aspects that you definitely will feel, sweet days, challenging days, etc., a longer list of those that you can get when you sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. You'll get my monthly write-up, which includes a written version of the things that I touch on in the horoscope for the general transits, and it also includes more things that I don't have time to talk about. So if you have signed up for my email newsletter and you're not receiving it, it could be in your spam or social or events folders, because I do send them out every month. Okay, so the first aspect of the month is March 2nd, and this is Jupiter in Libra opposing Uranus in Aries, and this is happening at 20 degrees. So if you have planets near the 20 degrees, you're probably you're going to be affected more than, you know, these aspects without them, but globally everyone will still be experiencing this. So that expression, things come in threes, is astrological, and that's because often things that we're experiencing come from aspects in the sky, and these ones that are big long-term themes, they usually involve what I call the titans, the outer planets. You know, it's like a sumo match between these planets that just carry a massive amount of power and a massive amount of potential. So when you have Jupiter, an outer planet, and Uranus, an outer planet, coming together in what could be considered a challenging aspect called an opposition, they're trying to find balance. You know, an opposition is two opposing forces. They're antagonistic, but they can also become synergistic. So the more you can transcend whatever the issue is, the more those planets will work in synastry. So Jupiter wants to expand, and Uranus wants to innovate. Libra is the planet of the sign of we, and Aries is the sign of me. So we've got a me-we aspect of a theme trying to get things worked out that started at the end of December, and this is in March 2nd, it's the second pass, and then on September 27th we have the final part of the story. These are like chapters in a story that are ongoing. So it's some sort of breaking free from constraints in relationships, and that's basically the theme. So we might perceive someone as limiting us, or someone might be perceiving us as limiting them, and maybe that is true. But what's probably more true is that we have limitations within us as far as how we can experience relationship, and we project that limitation on all of our relationships because it's coming from the inside. So you have an opportunity here to break free from your pattern within yourself, so you can stop enslaving your partner to play a certain role, and you can stop being attractive to those circumstances that are unfulfilling for you. So that's very exciting. So then on March 4th, we have Venus going retrograde. We've been talking about this for a while because the shadow period started at the end of January, and this transit only happens once every 18 months, and there's a lot that goes along with it. So definitely check out my Venus retrograde do's and don'ts blog and video. I'm also writing some other extensive Venus retrograde blogs that you can look for on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. And the basic gist of Venus retrograde is that Venus, we call Venus the triple goddess because she rules love, beauty, and money. So beauty also includes aesthetics in your environment, art, design, fashion, appearance, things like that. So she's going backwards, and when she goes backwards, it's a time to reconsider everything about love, beauty, and money. It's a time to go back to old ideas, old things that worked, old clients. Many people will revisit previous relationships. People who are staying in the same relationship will revisit topics that came up in the past, for better and worse. Venus retrograde is not just a time where unresolved conflicts can come up, although that is definitely a theme. Anything swept under the rug in love, beauty, or money will come back up to be looked at. But it's also a time where lots of magic can return to those areas of life. You can find money. You can have love return to a relationship where it had left. You can find some riches with your self-esteem development, which is another important topic for this retrograde. So we've got that going on from March 4th through April 15th. And it's going to be retrograde from 13 degrees of Aries back to 26 degrees of Pisces. So in the, we talked about where the Venus retrograde is taking place in the house for your sign. For all signs, we will experience Venus retrograde in Aries, which is similar to the first house, or is the same as the first house retrograde, and 26 degrees of Pisces, which is the same as the 12th house retrograde. So depending on where your placements were for your sign, you might be having the same themes come up, or you might be having some additional themes come up. But the general story of Venus in Aries has to do with self-esteem. It's talking about appearance, fashion, how you put yourself out into the world. Pisces has to do with hidden places. So this is a place where this hidden money can come to you, money that you didn't know that you had, or that you hid from yourself, or that was in the backdrop somehow. It's just stuff from the past involving love, beauty, and money. That's the basic gist of Venus retrograde. So then on March 12th, we have a full moon at 22 degrees of Virgo. And full moons, the best way to manage full moons, I think, is to leave some space around them, because full moons are a time when our emotions just sort of shake off. Everything that we've been accumulating for the month coming to fullness is just a time to shake it off, like a dog shakes off water, So often there's something dramatic, or there's something really cool going on that you want to be present for, So I usually keep a little space around the full moons for whenever these manifestations come up, because the best way to deal with them is to be present with them. So Virgo rules health, your daily work, it rules pets. So it's possible that something involving those things could come to your attention, or need attention, or come up as a focus at this time. The full moon is also making quite a lot of aspects, opposing Mercury and Chiron, trining Pluto, and squaring Saturn. So we've got a lot of power at this full moon, I think, to overcome the energy of woundedness. And this is going to be a theme this month because of aspects with Chiron. Chiron is an asteroid that is called the Wounded Healer. And the idea of the Wounded Healer, or my understanding of the Wounded Healer, and as I've observed it through countless charts, is that it's a place of weakness. That deep place where if someone gets at that, then you don't know what comes out. It gets ugly, It's a very wounded place, or a very weak place for you. So the idea of Chiron, the highest vibration, is that you strengthen, you focus your attention on that weakness or that vulnerability, and it becomes a strength. So that's the transcendent version. So like in the instance of the energy in Virgo, Virgo rules health. Maybe some people have health weaknesses. Maybe they have to work harder to attain health. And when that happens, they might wind up being healthier and staving off other health issues because they had a weakness that made them focus on their health. And if they didn't have that meticulous focus, then they could have created other problems maybe, or maybe they wind up teaching or helping people from it, or improving the lives of others because of what they've had to go through. So this is just an example of how you can take any woundedness that comes up this month or ever and convert it into something positive and powerful and supportive. So on March 20th, we have the beginning of the astrological new year. I never feel like the new year is starting on January 1st, especially when it's in the midst of a retrograde like it was this year and some other years. So March is when the planets start to move into Aries, and the planet of Aries, or the sign of Aries, is the baby of the zodiac. It's that bursting forth, that energy of spring, something new beginnings. So you'll see as the planets are moving into this sign, people get impulsive, they get excited, they get wild, they want to do stuff, they feel active. And this is the energy of New Year. So on March 27th, we have the new moon in Aries, and I always consider the new moon in Aries to be like the kickoff party for the New Year. It's like the New Year starts around March 20th, and then when the new moon in Aries comes, it's like, yay, okay, it's a New Year, let's have a party. That's like New Year's Eve, So this new moon in Aries, all the new moons in Aries, so the one new moon that we have in Aries a year, is the best time of the whole year besides your birthday to do vision boards or other seed planting for your future, things that you want in that upcoming year. So definitely take full advantage of that. This new moon also carries a lot of power. It's conjunct Chiron and Venus. It's a square Saturn, and it's coinciding with a Mars in Taurus and Neptune sextile, which is a 60-degree angle. It's a positive angle. So there's, again, a lot of power behind this moon phase. On March 30th, we have our last big aspect of the month, which is the second Jupiter square with Pluto. Similar to how we've been talking about this Jupiter opposition with Libra, how it happened once last year, so did this Jupiter and Pluto aspect. And this one's happening at 19 degrees. On November 24th of last year, this Jupiter and Pluto first pass happened. Now on March 30th, the second pass happens. And then on August 4th, the last pass will happen. So we've got these 3 chapters of this ongoing story. And one of the main themes, I think, of this ongoing story has to do with ambitions, rising ambitions, and the idea of competition and what we have to do or what we're willing to do or what we think we have to do to succeed. In a third dimensional reality, there is competition. There's focus on competition. And there are all of the energies that go along with competition. It's kind of gross, It can be very, very low vibe and not conducive to conscious evolution to focus too much on the energy of competition. My suggestion, I invite you to use this energy to transcend competition and tune in to divine timing and your divine path and purpose. So if you're out there doing what you're supposed to be doing and you feel like Spirit is guiding you and you're on track and you're speaking your truth or doing your truth, then it doesn't really matter what anyone else is doing. You will attract to you the people and the customers that will be perfect for you. And so really there's no competition on the spiritual plane. And this is an affirmation from Florence Scovel Shinn, who is one of my all-time favorite teachers. She's not in form anymore that I know of. And she wasn't even when she came to me. She had passed a long time ago. So she was teaching about, she was actually teaching about Jesus's work as a metaphysician, teaching about transcending mundane reality while still in form, like bringing heaven onto earth in our experience. And that is an affirmation I got from her. So there's no competition on the spiritual plane. So if you are conducting yourself in a way that is high vibrational, if you are doing everything that is in sync with your beliefs and your values, then you can transcend this energy, So you just check in with yourself and see how this is true for you, and just look out for it, because these themes are sometimes very subtle. Sometimes they come more into the forefront, but overall they're very subtle sometimes. So these are the main things that I am seeing for the month for the general transits. So you have plenty of opportunities to summon your inner badass. Definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Check out my blogs. I have blogs on all different kinds of topics, not just astrology. If you want to learn astrology with me, then I might still have some slots available in my astrology apprenticeship program. If you want to bring your business online, check out my Creating Successful Online Business course. And if you would like to be a coach as your profession, then you can check out my coach certification course. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.